I will now call this court to order for the purpose of hearing the case of Peter Pan versus Captain Hook. Under the terms of Jones versus Florida, the defendant has exercised his right to a jury trial. Prosecution attorney, you may now raise your opening statement.
We are here today to hear the case of Peter Pan versus Captain Hook, in which case Captain Hook is charged with the unlawful use of a firearm in an attempt to kill Peter Pan, kidnapping, and the attempted murder of Peter Pan using a bomb. On the way back into Neverland after getting Wendy, Peter Pan is shot at by a cannon by Captain Hook. This poses immediate danger to Peter Pan, as well as Wendy and her brothers, since they have no flying experience. Later on, Hook kidnaps the Indian girl Tiger Lily. He brings her out into the ocean with her hands tied and leaves her to be killed when the tide rises. Later, Hook kidnaps once again, this time having Smee put a hat over Tinkerbell and then bringing Tinkerbell to Hook's ship without her consent. He then goes to the hideout. First, he kidnaps the Lost Boys Wendy and Wendy's two brothers. He also attempts to murder Peter Pan by putting a bomb in Peter Pan's home. Hook tries to kill Peter Pan once again when Peter comes to the rescue. Clearly, it is evident that the traits that Hook possesses are that of a monster, since he clearly tries to murder Peter Pan and kidnaps several people. Therefore, based on the evidence we present, Hook should be found guilty of all charges placed before him.
Now the defense attorney will read their opening statement.
Your Honor, in regards to the claims made by the prosecution in the case of Peter Pan versus Captain Hook, the defendant pleads not guilty on the grounds of mental illness, according to Clark v. Arizona. Captain Hook suffers from narcissistic personality disorder with symptoms of pursuing many selfish goals, lacking empathy and disregarding the feelings of others, requiring constant attention and positive reinforcement from others. Mr. Hook is also a victim of post-traumatic stress disorder after Peter Pan brutally cut off his hand and threw it overboard Captain Hook's ship and fed it to the crocodile.
Prosecution, do you have any witnesses you would like to call to the stand?
I do, Your Honor. I would like to call Peter Pan to the stand. Peter, can you describe what was happening as you were flying back from Neverland after bringing back Wendy and her two brothers?
Well, I was flying through the sky when all of a sudden a giant cannonball came blasting past my head, and I looked down at the water, and it was from Captain Hook's pirate ship.
Was there any clear purpose for why he had this weapon?
It had to be to kill me.
Thank you, Peter. According to the United States v. Cruikshank in 1876, the right to keep and bear arms for a lawful purpose is not granted by the Constitution. The amendment is only for the purpose of restricting the power of the federal government. Therefore, Hook should not be able to use his weapon in defense of his Second Amendment rights.
Objection! Hook was clearly using the weapon for self-defense within his home. He had felt threatened by Peter Pan since he did not know if he was going to come down and harm him. According to the case, District of Columbia v. Heller in 2008, the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to hold a firearm for lawful purposes like self-defense in his own home. Even more, McDonald v. City of Chicago ruled in 2010 that the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms for self-defense in one's home is allowed based on the 14th Amendment. Clearly, weapon use for self-defense is allowed by the Second Amendment.
I see. Peter, do you think that this was an act of self-defense by Captain Hook? Did you do anything to provoke him?
No, I was just flying by. It was definitely not self-defense, because I did nothing to provoke it.
Therefore, the Second Amendment does not allow the use of a firearm, even if Hook claimed it was for self-defense. I have another question. Is Hook part of a militia of Neverland?
No, there's no such thing.
So we've established that the firearm use that was not on the basis of a militia use as well. According to United States v. Miller, the federal government is able to limit the access a person has for weapons and did not directly have a relation to keep well-regulated militias. Therefore, according to United States v. Miller, Neverland is able to limit Hook's cannon since it's not used for the militia. Peter, were there any other instances in which you felt threatened by Captain Hook?
Well, he left a bomb inside my home. Right before I opened it, Tink came flying in and made me let go of it. If I was still holding it, I would have been killed.
Your Honor, these are two instances in which Captain Hook attempted to murder Peter Pan. This claim is established by the precedent court case of State v. Mitchell. In State v. Mitchell, Mitchell shot into the bed of a person trying to kill him. However, the bed was empty. Even so, the court ruled that this is still considered attempted murder since the criminal had intentions of killing another person. Hook didn't know that Tinkerbell was going to escape and try to warn Peter. Hook thought he was dropping the bomb that would surely kill Peter. Therefore, this is clear intent of murder. That is all the questions I have for you, Peter. Your Honor?
Thank you. Defense, do you have any questions for Peter?
Peter, why are you so positive that it was Captain Hook that placed the bomb?
Tinkerbell told me.
Hasn't she already betrayed you once? You banished her for persuading the Lost Boys to fire on Wendy. Can you be 100% sure that she wasn't the one to place the bomb? Other than her word, how do you know that it was Captain Hook who attempted to murder you?
Well, I suppose that she did try to save me from the explosion, though. That has to count for something.
Perhaps she had a change of heart and didn't want you to die. There is presently a lack of evidence solidly convicting Captain Hook of placing that bomb. Peter, is it true that many years ago it was in fact you who mangled Captain Hook's hand and fed it to the crocodile?
Yes, it was me.
So could you say that you were responsible for Hook's actions and revengeful behaviors?
I mean, I guess in a way, but I'm not the only one that Hook has assaulted.
Peter Pan, in your final battle with Captain Hook, you not only taunted him, but you were attempting to kill Mr. Hook by dangling him over the edge of a cliff. How are your actions different from his?
It was self-defense. My life was felt to be in danger since I've been threatened by Captain Hook so many times.
But this time you took the taunting too far, and you were just as much at fault as he was. No further questions, Your Honor.
Objection! According to Brown v. United States, if a person is attacked and has a reasonable assumption that he is in immediate danger of death or causing harm to his body, he does not have to retreat. He's able to fight and secure himself with any potential harm. I would now like to call Tinkerbell to the stand. Can you tell me what happened on the day that Captain Hook found out the location of Peter Pan's home? What do you think Captain Hook meant when he said he wouldn't lay a finger on Peter Pan? Did you feel threatened when Captain Hook kidnapped you? Can you identify again where you were when this occurred and where you were taken? Do you think that you were a hostage? And how old are you, Tinkerbell? And how old is Captain Hook? Your Honor, it's very clear that Captain Hook has kidnapped this fairy. Precedent has been set in State v. Moore when kidnapping was defined. Consequently, this case has defined kidnapping as any person who is under the age of 16 removed from one place or another by someone over that age, with the intent of holding a hostage. Therefore, since Captain Hook has removed Tinkerbell and placed her on his ship with the intent of holding her as a hostage, he has committed a kidnapping and should clearly be punished. Tinkerbell, what happened when Captain Hook took you to his ship and kept you there? Was Captain Hook's ship in hiding? Would anyone have been able to see you there? Did Captain Hook try to hurt you physically with force when he was holding you hostage? Your Honor, it's clearly evident that Captain Hook has abducted Tinkerbell. In the case State v. Solomon, it was ruled that the key to distinguishing kidnapping from unlawful restraint is the fact that kidnapping requires the person to abduct this victim rather than just restraining freedoms. An abduction was defined under the law as restraint of personal freedom done by either hiding the victim or threatening them with physical force. Therefore, since Captain Hook has both used brutal force and kept Tinkerbell hidden, this can be considered by law a kidnapping due to the precedent set in the case State v. Solomon. That is all I have, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I would like to cross-examine the witness.
You may proceed.
Tinkerbell, when did you first meet Peter Pan? And you had already lived a number of years before that, correct? Peter Pan never grew up, but he has been in the world for at least the last 18 years. Therefore, as Tinkerbell knew him as a child, she is also over the age of 18. Therefore, Captain Hook cannot be tried for kidnapping a minor, only for the charge of kidnapping if it is determined he did in fact do so. Tinkerbell, you said that you began showing Captain Hook places on the map, is that correct? And you directly pointed him to Peter Pan's secret hideout? Why were you so willing to give up Peter's location? By you helping Captain Hook, you were consenting to your own kidnapping, and you could be named an accomplice in the kidnapping of the Darling Children and the Lost Boys. You were not hidden away from the crew, and the bruise on your arm is suspect, as it has been several weeks since the incident in question occurred. Any bruises would have been faded by now. Your Honor, we are done.
Prosecution, you may now call your next witness to the stand.
I now call a lost boy named Slightly to the stand.
I notice this witness is exceptionally young. Is he fit to testify in front of this court?
Yes, he is old enough to accurately remember the events that occurred. I have instructed him that he needs to tell the truth in this case.
You may proceed. However, if I feel he is being untruthful, he will not be able to testify.
I understand. Slightly, please remember it's important to be truthful throughout all of the proceedings.
I understand.
Slightly, can you describe what happened on the day in which Captain Hook and his pirate friends showed up outside of your hideout?
Well, me and the other boys were going back to England with Wendy and her brothers, but we stepped outside and there was Captain Hook and his men. We were gagged up and tied together with rope and led back to Captain Hook's big pirate ship. And none of us wanted to go, but we couldn't do anything. We tried calling for help, but the pirates wouldn't let us go. And then when we got to the ship, we were gagged up and tied to a big pole. And Captain Hook told us we had to sign with him or walk the plank. And I can't swim, so it was basically a wish to die if we walked the plank.
So,
Someday.
if you hadn't given the pirates orders, would you have been hurt?
Yeah, I had some scratches and bruises from when they tried to drag me on the ground.
So, would you agree that force was placed upon you to get you to move and go with the pirates?
Yes, definitely.
Was it only you or were there others who were forced as well?
Everyone was pretty banged up. We all didn't want to go with them, so we tried to get away.
How old is the youngest lost boy?
He's 2, but he will stay that way since we don't grow up in Neverland. Wendy's youngest brother is 2 years old too.
Thank you. Your Honor, we have proven that this was in fact a forcible seizure and abduction, as well as an age of several of those abducted is under 4 years old. Therefore, according to the case, State v. Farrar, A child of 4 is held incapable of consenting to forcible seizures and abductions. Therefore, if the defense attorney aims to state that the abduction was with consent, it is not allowed under these circumstances, and the act committed by Captain Hook is said to be kidnapping. I do have one more question concerning Tiger Lily. Do you know anything about if Captain Hook did anything to her? Were you a witness for any of this?
I know that other lost boys and I was being held at the Indian camp until Tiger Lily returned, and then Peter Pan returned with Tiger Lily and said that Captain Hook had kidnapped her and left her tied up in the water, and Tiger Lily agreed.
Did you see Tiger Lily after this alleged kidnapping? Do you know if Tiger Lily consented?
She said in no way she consented to being kidnapping because she was tied up and was going to drown. I also know that Tiger Lily's dad, the Indian chief, did not allow Captain Hook to take Tiger Lily.
So you say it was forced kidnapping and that her parents did not agree with it?
Yes.
Thank you. That is all of the questions I have for Slightly. I would now like to call Captain Hook to the stand. Captain Hook, what happened on the day that Peter Pan was said to be in danger by you?
I was just minding my business in my ship when all of a sudden the crocodile came after me yet again. Now I have a fear of this crocodile because it bit my hand off in my earlier years, which is why I have this hook for a hand now. I've suffered greatly from mental instability due to this horrific event that happened to me, which people would say is post-traumatic stress disorder. So while I was running around my ship to avoid the crocodile, I was nowhere to see Peter Pan, thinking he was coming after me too, since this crocodile had just nearly bit my head off. Out of fear for my own safety, I had to do something about it, which is why I used the cannons.
How exactly was your hand bitten off?
Well, it all happened so fast. I could remember as this big crocodile staring at me with my handgun and detached from my body. I was in such a shock that I wasn't even aware of anything except for my missing hand and the crocodile.
Has this event caused you much stress in the latter years?
Oh yes, to this day I have a very strong fear of that crocodile. That one who ticks and talks whenever I hear that noise, go into a state of shock, fearing for my life.
Would you say that you're not yourself in these moments?
I would say I am not myself.
What symptoms do you have when these attacks start happening?
Well, I have flashbacks and recurrent and unwanted distressing memories of the traumatic event. I also feel emotionally numb and have angry outbursts of aggressive behavior. All of these and many more things are some of the only symptoms that I usually have. They are all consistent with the signs of PTSD.
Have you enlisted in professional help?
No.
Do you plan on enlisting a professional's help to allow you to better cope and deal with this disorder?
No.
Your Honor, I hereby recommend that Captain Hook be indefinitely committed due to danger that he exhibits to himself and others. Based on the precedent set in Addington vs. Texas, there is a required commitment for his own protection and the protection of others, since there is convincing evidence that displays these dangers. This was ruled constitutionally adequate in the case Addington vs. Texas, and therefore, based on the fact that Captain Hook has a mental disorder that can lead to antics that could harm himself and others, he should be committed. Additionally, in the case Schmidt vs. Lessard, the commitment occurs when a person poses an imminent danger or threat to himself or others. Since Captain Hook was trying to harm Peter Pan as a direct result of his PTSD episode, he should be again committed. That is all, Your Honor.
Objection! According to the 1971 ruling of Winters v. Miller, it is the right of the patient to refuse treatment. Captain Hook is capable of making his own decisions, and when not provoked, he does not serve as a threat to Neverland. If at another time the defendant wishes to voluntarily commit to a facility for the mentally ill, he can do so, as was seen in Zinnerman v. Birch in 1990. Your Honor, I would like to question the defendant. Captain Hook, what is your relationship with Peter Pan?
Peter Pan and I are enemies. He cut off me hand.
Yes, can you please show the jury your wound? Thank you. Would you say that this wound has caused you to fear Peter Pan?
It has indeed.
How often have you encountered him?
More than I would like.
Has he ultimately threatened you each time you were in contact with one another?
He has the majority of the time, yes.
When he showed up flying over your ship unexpectedly and for no reason, did you fear for the loss of your other hand?
Given that the crocodile was following me, yes.
According to Brown v. U.S., when a person in fear of grievous bodily injury, such as the loss of a hand, he has the right to defend himself. That is all that Captain Hook did in firing the gun at Peter Pan. Captain, you have a very loyal crew, do you not?
I do, especially Mr. Smee, my first mate.
Does Neverland have a military?
No, it does not.
So you could say that you are the military yourself, with you as the captain, as the commander-in-chief.
That would be an accurate comparison.
Many of the crimes that the prosecution is bringing against Captain Hook, he did not commit himself. He ordered the crew members to do it, yes, but he only told the crew to do so in firing the cannon at Peter Pan, abducting Tiger Lily, the Lost Boys, and Wendy's family, and should they have done so, planting the bomb in Peter Pan's home. His crew carried out all of these illegal activities. However, it was their obligation to disobey any unlawful orders. Captain Hook, did your crew at any time tell you that your activities were illegal?
No, and because of my PTSD, I failed to see that much of what I was commanding them to do was illegal.
The Supreme Court case Little v. Breen holds that orders of the Commander-in-Chief, Captain Hook in this case, that violates laws of Congress are illegal. However, in that case, despite the Commander-in-Chief, John Adams, giving such an order, he was not punished, and instead the soldiers that carried out the command were. So So should Captain Hook not be punished for issuing commands against the law of the land, as Adams set a precedent for not being punished?
If there are no more witnesses on either side, I will hear the closing arguments, starting with the defense.
We ask the jury to consider the evidence that has been presented by this court. By Lockett v. Ohio, please take into the account of Hook's character of being mentally ill in addition to the crimes he has committed in the case of Peter Pan versus Captain Hook. Captain Hook's narcissistic personality disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder have contributed to his actions and behaviors of attempting to kill Peter Pan and kidnapping of others. His mental illness makes him discern to the consequences of his actions, according to Panetti v. Quarterman. Captain Hook is not subject to the death penalty by Ford v. Wainwright. Furthermore, his crew illegally committed many of the crimes which he has been charged of, and thus he should be found innocent of such things. The defendant will consider voluntarily seeking the aid of a mental health professional. It has been suggested to him to participate in group therapy. Additionally, the defendant has agreed to be placed on medication to alleviate his anxiety and anger issues. While there is no effective known cure for PTSD, Captain Hook will not harm an individual unless provoked. Thank you.
Your Honor, we ask you to consider all of the evidence that we've brought before you today. Captain Hook has attempted to murder Peter Pan on multiple occasions, which can cause him to be convicted based on the court's decision in State v. Mitchell. Captain Hook has also kidnapped various people, which we have lawfully proven to be kidnapping under previous precedents, earlier stated. The defense claims that Captain Hook is mentally unstable and therefore he should not be convicted of crime due to his mental instability. However, we urge you to consider the many criminal actions that he has committed, not only towards Peter Pan but also towards others. We therefore urge the court to charge Captain Hook with the death penalty on the basis of aggravated kidnapping, which is a charge capital punishment allows in several states, including Neverland. The Supreme Court case, Thompson v. Oklahoma, rules that the death penalty can be imposed on people over the age of 16, which Captain Hook meets the criteria for, as established earlier by Tinkerbell. However, if you do not find Hook worthy to be of capital punishment, which he should be punished as, we urge your Honor to commit Captain Hook to a mental institution so that he can recover from his mental disorders and not be any further threat to the well-being of any of the citizens of Neverland, including Peter Pan, due to his previous criminal actions. Thank you.